Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We are down to our last Power 5 conference when it comes to our quarterback ranking series. And so today, guys, we're going to be ranking every single quarterback within the ACC heading into this upcoming college football season. So we won't delay it any further, but before we dive into it, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. Because again, guys, here at the Gridiron Expert, college football never dies. The season never ends here at our channel. We are about a month away from the start of prediction season, and I can promise you, you do not want to miss out on any of that content. Any of our future college football content that's coming your way, you don't want to miss it. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button so you can become a part of our GE Nation. So let's dive into these ACC quarterback rankings. Again, the last Power 5 conference that we are breaking down in this series. Coming in at last, going from worst to first, we've got Virginia. Their quarterback situation is not pretty. It's going to be a battle between Jay Woolfolk and Tony Muskett. Obviously, the great Brennan Armstrong transferred out of the program, and Virginia really was left with nothing in second-year head coach Tony Elliott. You've got Woolfolk, who's been there for 2 years, but has not completed a pass for Virginia since Week 13 of the 2021 season. And then you have Tony Muskett, who's transferring in from Monmouth, who had a pretty solid arm and is very accurate. I would almost lean towards Muskett, despite not being with Virginia. I'd lean towards him because he does have playing experience at the FCS level. But it's a very interesting and intriguing battle going on for the Cavaliers right now, and something that Tony Elliott's really going to need to figure out after a very disappointing and lackluster year one. And at number 13, Virginia's big rival, Virginia Tech. Their quarterback situation, not too solid either. It's going to be a battle between Grant Wells and Kyron Drones. And you know, you're probably going to give the odd and the nod to Grant Wells just because of his experience. He was the quarterback for the Hokies last year. Over 2,171 yards last year, 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Those stats, not really eye-popping and not great. We've seen Grant Wells show flashes of brilliance. Every now and then he comes out there, has an amazing game. He had a pretty decent run during his time at Marshall, but we didn't see that really at Virginia Tech last year, so we're hoping he can kind of return to form. Drones, on the other hand, is transferring in from Baylor, where he sat behind Blake Shapen, who was originally named the starter for the Bears. Only had 23 attempts with Baylor last year, or during his career with the Bears. So obviously has some work to do, not as experienced, but definitely has a decent skill set that Brent Pry could choose to use for the Hokies if he chooses to go with them. Virginia Tech desperately needing a bounce-back year after going 3-8 in 2022. And number 12, Georgia Tech, their quarterback situation. It's an interesting one. Haynes King, Zach Gibson, and Zach Pyron are all in the running for it. Haynes King, of course, transferring in from Texas A&M, where he threw for over 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions last year. He's a guy that was highly touted coming out of high school. A&M was really excited about him and just never really panned out much with the Aggies. Obviously, also dealt with some injuries as well, and ended up having to transfer as they chose to go with Connor Weidman and Max Johnson last year and entering this year as well. Zach Gibson, on the other hand, 589 yards and a touchdown during his time at Georgia Tech. But we do know that he has experience playing at Akron. He transferred in from the Akron program where he threw for over 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions in 2021. So he's a guy that you could see get the nod for the Yellow Jackets based on what we've seen over the course of his entire collegiate career. And then Pyron obviously struggles to get the ball downfield, but he's very electric, he's elusive, he's got a dangerous skill set that if Georgia Tech can hone his passing skills, if they can fix up his accuracy and decision-making, could be a solid starter. But right now, I think it's more of a battle between King and Gibson. In at 11, Miami's quarterback. It's either going to be Tyler Van Dyke or Ja'Cory Brown. My gut said it's going to be Tyler Van Dyke, the guy that had a great year just a few years ago and didn't pan out for Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes last year. I mean, again, this is a program, guys, that expects to succeed, a program that has had high expectations. A Tyler Van Dyke player that had high expectations entering 2022 and didn't really pan out, only throwing for over 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, compared to the 2,900 plus yards he had in 2021, along with 25 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So he's a guy that has experience, and we know he has a very strong upside, but he needs a drastic bounce-back year in year 2 under Mario Cristobal. Brown, on the other hand, has only attempted 45 attempts last year, so he is very inexperienced, doesn't have much playing time. Obviously, the skill set's there, sure, but if I'm Mario Cristobal, I'm going to go with the guy that I think has more experience and that I have seen and know is capable of producing good results. And we know Tyler Van Dyke has it in him. It's just a matter of can he return to form. In at number 10, Mitch Griffiths over at Wake Forest. Guy that had to replace Sam Hartman, but got some quality playing time last year when Sam Hartman missed those first couple games of the season. You know, the thing is, though, he got some good playing time there, but his best performance came against VMI, Virginia Military Institute, in the season opener, or game 2, whenever it was. You know, you can't really judge it based on that one performance, one game against a very poor opponent. Griffiths, 29 for 41, 348 yards, 5 touchdowns over the course of last year. He obviously has a very strong arm. He's extremely accurate, and he impressed a lot of people. If you're a Demon Deacon fans, he probably impressed you quite a bit during spring ball. But this is a guy that we have ranked kind of low right now. We got to proceed with caution because we really haven't seen him play against some higher quality opponents, especially within conference play. So I like Griffiths. I think he has a very high upside. I think by midseason he can go from 10th in our rankings to maybe top 6 or 7. But right now we have him kind of low until we can see what he really does against higher level opponents. And number 9, Jack Plummer at Louisville. I really like this quarterback. I really like this spot here too. You know, Plummer was at Purdue a few years ago with Jeff Brom, who is now the head coach at Louisville. Then Plummer, after losing the job to Aiden O'Connell, transferred out to California and put up solid numbers there. Over 3,000 yards with the Golden Bears last year and 21 touchdowns for a California team that no one talked about because they weren't really any good. But despite not being a great team, Plummer put up pretty solid stats. In 3 years at Purdue, he threw for over 3,400 yards and 26 touchdowns, ultimately lost out in the job. But if you remember, going back to those Purdue days, there was a battle consistently between Plummer and Aiden O'Connell. Went back and forth, but they finally took O'Connell and just rode with him. I think he's going to fit in well with his old coach, a coach that knows how to breed quarterbacks, a coach that knows how to run an offense. Brock Doman sure could give Plummer a bit of a run of his money, but I think Plummer is the best quarterback on this roster right now, and fitting inside of Jeff Brom's offense, I think it's going to pan out really, really well for both parties. And at number 8, Phil Jurkovec at Pittsburgh, so transferring within the conference. Remember, Jurkovec was at Boston College, is now at Pittsburgh, replacing Keaton Slovis, who transferred to BYU. All these transfers, man, it's hard to keep up with. But Jurkovec is a really, really solid and sound quarterback if he can stay healthy. He was riddled with injuries during his time at Boston College, but during his time there, did throw for over 5,100 yards and 35 touchdowns. He has a very strong arm. He's a pretty accurate quarterback. It's just, can he stay healthy? That is the biggest thing that kind of riddled his time at Boston College. Really got, Jeff Hafley's tenure with the Eagles off to a poor start because I think if he had stayed healthy, BC probably would have had some much better years down the road. Just didn't work out. But Pittsburgh's a great fit for him. I love this fit with Pat Narduzzi. Jurkovec right on the outside of the upper half of the ACC, coming in at number 8. And number 7, into the top half of the conference, Emmett Moorhead from BC. Again, haven't seen much of him. He's thrown for over 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns during his time with the Eagles last year, which ain't too shabby. 6'5", 228 pounds is a great, great frame. And if you watched him, what you saw from him last year with Boston College, you go, this is a guy that can be a full-time starter. This is a guy that could lead Boston College to some pretty solid wins and maybe be, I wouldn't say a dark horse in the ACC, but a team that maybe could challenge for 7 or 8 wins. He's very, very accurate. He's got a very strong arm, but we just haven't seen much of him in real game action. Again, we saw a little bit of him last year, but how will he do as a full-time starter with Jeff Hafley? We'll get in, though. From what we've seen, we do believe he's an upper half quarterback in the ACC. And at number 6, Brennan Armstrong, now transferring to NC State. Remember, Brennan Armstrong, phenomenal career at Virginia, now a member of the Wolfpack. He didn't have a great year at Virginia last year. We know that. Only 2,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 12 interceptions with the Cavaliers last year. But in 2021, over 4,400 passing yards, 31 touchdowns. Also rushed for over 250 yards and 9 touchdowns for a total of 40 touchdowns on the year. That's the Brennan Armstrong that has him ranked 6th right now. If we were basing it solely on last year's stats, he'd be much lower. But because we know what Brennan Armstrong is capable of, we've got him in at number 6. Obviously, he needs to stay healthy as well, but if he can return to form, he's going to be a great fit in this NC State offense. And, NC State, they lose Devin Leary. Everybody's freaking out. Armstrong is the perfect replacement. Could be even better if he stays healthy and if he can return to that 2021 form, not the one we saw last year. In number 5, Garrett Schrader over at Syracuse. Gotta love him. This is a guy that is going to miss the majority of the spring, or did miss the spring due to an arm injury, which we hated to see. But, if he can come back and be 100%, he could take an even bigger step forward than he did last year. Last year, he went from completing just a little over 52% of his passes in 2021 to 64.7% of his passes in 2022. Threw for over 2,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, rushed for over 450 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's elusive. He's got a great size, a great frame, and he improved drastically with throwing the ball. 2021, he was more of a rusher. Last year, that dual threat ability didn't go away, but he really honed in on those passing skills and was drastically a different quarterback, and that showed. Syracuse had a pretty solid year last year, getting to a bowl game in what felt like a make-or-break year for Dino Babers. At number 4, Cade Klubnik at Clemson. I can't rank him higher than 4th because I haven't seen enough of him. But what we have seen has been impressive. The ACC championship performance where he went 20 for 24 for 279 yards and a touchdown against North Carolina, that's really, really impressive. That was a great performance. His stats against Tennessee weren't terrible. 30 for 54, 320 yards, but didn't complete a touchdown, had 2 interceptions against the Volunteers. He's young, though. He's 6'2". He's talented, got a great arm. Some are saying he could be the best quarterback to come through Clemson, and that could be the case certainly now with a new offensive coordinator in Garrett Riley. So watch out for Cade Klubnik and Clemson, guys. They certainly aren't going anywhere, and if Garrett Riley can develop him and Cade Klubnik truly lives up to the hype, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. At number 3, Riley Leonard at Duke. How about that? A Duke quarterback coming into the top 3 of the ACC. What a turnaround for Leonard. 63.9% completion percentage last year was unbelievable. Threw for over 2,900 yards and 20 touchdowns. Also rushed for 700 yards and 13 touchdowns. I mean, it was a pretty unbelievable performance. So, I mean, you're looking at a guy that right now had over 3,600 total yards, 33 total touchdowns. He is very, very talented, way more accurate than people give him credit for, and also more mobile than people give him credit for. He has Duke contending, guys, legitimately. And look, week 1 game, Duke versus Clemson, Riley Leonard versus Cade Klubnik, gonna be a lot of fun. This is a Duke team that won 9 games in year 1 under Mike Elko. You better not be sleeping on the Blue Devils, and you better not be sleeping on Riley Leonard, who's leading the charge. Down to our top 2 quarterbacks. We know who they are, but who's ranked 1, who's ranked 2? Coming in at number 2, it's Drake Maye at North Carolina. So yes, we'll get to that number 1 in a second. But number 2 is Drake Maye, who is absolutely unbelievable. No doubt about it, will be a first rounder. No doubt is a Heisman Trophy contender. Threw for over 4,300 yards, 38 touchdowns last year. Rushed for nearly 700 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. Completed over 66% of his passes. I mean, you name it, he's got it. He's insanely accurate. He's insanely strong. He led North Carolina to a 9-3 record in ACC title berth before falling to Clemson and then Oregon in their bowl game. But he will have North Carolina in contention for an ACC title once again. And keep in mind, the Tar Heels could have been even better last year had their defense just helped them out a little bit. If they had a lick of defense, who knows what UNC could have done. But Drake Maye truly is unbelievable and extremely fun to watch. And the stats speak for themselves. Not just one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, but in the country. Which means number 1, guys, in our ACC quarterback rankings is, of course, Jordan Travis at Florida State, who, yes, is a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. He took a major step forward. Talk about guys like Riley Leonard and Garrett Strader, guys that took these major leaps forward from 2021 to 2022. Jordan Travis was absolutely one of them. Threw for over 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, completed 64% of his passes, which was the best mark of his college career so far. Had over 400 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, so 31 total touchdowns on the year. He's accurate, he's smart, high football IQ. That dual threat capability is one that you cannot afford to overlook. He is surrounded by talent. This Florida State offense, guys, is unbelievable heading into 2023. They're going to make Jordan Travis look really, really good. And in turn, Florida State's going to be really, really good. This was a team that won 10 games last year, went 10-3 with that big bowl win over Oklahoma. They now carry a lot of momentum into this upcoming season. And it would not surprise me to see Travis getting an invite to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Would not surprise me to see Florida State be in the hunt for the college football playoff by the time the season ends. Better watch out, guys. The ACC is going to be a lot of fun. The quarterback rankings, guys, are a little top-heavy. The rest kind of muddled in the middle, but these top-heavy quarterbacks are going to be what makes this conference fun, intriguing, and ultimately wide open. We want to hear your thoughts, though, down below. Who's going to win the ACC? Who's the best quarterback in the conference? Leave your rankings and thoughts below, and let's get ready for a big season that's coming up. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and, of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, because, again, guys, here at our channel, college football never dies. The season never ends. here at the Gridiron Expert, and we want you to take advantage of that. We want you to become part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.